Interpretation of statutes. Actually, it's not an act. Okay, we're going to understand how we are going to understand law. The earlier topic which we were discussing with respect to general clauses is an act. Okay, general clauses act. Here, probably if I go for general clauses act again, we said this act is a short dictionary like. Okay. Whereas if you go for this topic, interpretation of statutes, actually it's not an act, but probably I can take this way. If there is a case going on, some proceedings going on in some court, a high court or supreme court or any court, some judgment has to be given, right? Some judgment has to be given, order has to be passed. And what the judges will do, probably there'll be two side parties, and the parties will not be directly arguing in most of the cases, but what will be done? But what will be done? There'll be two advocates. Okay, they'll be arguing. Okay. Recently, I came across this one case where a chemistry teacher case. You come across this case? Chemistry teacher. Actually, I don't remember the complete case. Actually, that's related to some murder case. She is a wife of that accused. So she has taken her own case. Like she is going to argue on behalf of her husband, in favor of her husband. So she's not taking advocate at all. சும்மா இருந்தாச்சு விடுதலை கிடைச்சிருக்கும். What she did was she went there in front of the judge. She started explaining how that person got poisoned and how it's not related to her husband. Okay, டீச்சருக்கு இது ஜட்ஜுக்கு வந்து கெமிஸ்ட்ரி கிளாஸ் எடுக்க போக ஜட்ஜ் வந்து இந்த கெமிஸ்ட்ரி கிளாஸ் வந்து கிளியரா புரியுது இவர் தான் கால் பண்ணிருக்காருன்னு சொல்லிட்டாரு. Okay, probably you can please make a note. Okay, actually, this two topics, Gender Clauses Act and Interpretation of Statutes, is such a beautiful topic. If you apply to each and every act, it will give a beautiful meaning. Okay, so you can take this as an assignment. Chemistry teacher in court. Just you Google this terms, you'll get it. Google these words, you'll get it. Okay. So chemistry teacher case. So probably if you don't want to go very legal, have you ever heard of this, or you ever seen this board somewhere like restricted entry? When you have seen? Crime scene. Okay. Where else? Mining. Okay, mining. Where else? Where else? In hotels. Or else you might get this term like instead of restricted entry, you may get like uh, permitted with restriction. You may get this as what this means. What this means. For example, if you go for hospitals, who can enter? The doctors, the nurses, they can enter. As a patient attendance, you cannot always, with the patient, you cannot be always there. In the hotels, who can enter? Chefs, servers, they can enter. Again, with the crime scene, police officers, forensic department, they can enter. How do you understand this? It's a restricted entry. As a layman, I should not enter there. How do you understand this? அவன் என்ன போடுறது நான் போவேன்ல அப்படி பாப்பீங்களா இல்ல எப்படி பாப்பீங்க? Okay, there is some meaning. Okay, they have kept this board outside. It's a warning like we should not go there. Okay, so if you go for a traffic light signal, what do you do? Traffic light signal with a orange light or with a red light. Yeah, road as a constitutional right. No, you will not do that. You will understand. Okay, it's not given in wordings, but it's given in light signals. Okay, orange you have to wait and or you have to be alert like, or you should stop or something alert like. If you go for red, it's like a danger. You should not go. Okay, green, so you can go. Okay, that also the particular speed. Okay. If you see some lights or if you see the signals like or if you see some wordings, how you understand it's very easy. Restricted entry means every layman has to understand. But what happens is there's a big headache for the judges to understand how the cases has to be led because he is a king. If he's not giving the good judgment, then definitely it's going to be a big fault. Like, okay, இந்தியாவோட இதுவே வந்து தலையெழுத்தையே மாத்துற மாதிரியான கேசஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கும். Okay, one such case is this beautiful case, chemist. I request you to hardly go through this. It's a beautiful case. Okay. So actually, what we are going to do here is we are going to interpret the statutes part. What do you mean by statutes? Colloquial definition we know is all rules, regulations, everything related. So we know the normal definition, and also we have done here in General Clauses Act, which is by basic definition, legal definition. Okay. How we are going to interpret it? Okay, how we are going to interpret it? Probably another word we use for interpretation is construction, which means how we are going to construct. We are going to apply some laws. See, we means not exactly we, especially this is done by judges, but as a chartered accountant or as a professional or as an advocate, you are going to take your company to the court. So what do you do? So what do you do? You're going to take your company to the court. You'll take the best measure to understand the provisions in such a way that your company is covered or not. Okay. Interpretation is something which will check whether this line is applicable or not. Applicability is different, and also we need to check. Sometimes some hidden meaning will be there. Will not be understanding. Seeing the plain words will not understand. Seeing the direct words will not understand. Sometimes we need to construct it. Construct means we need to understand in such a sense it's applicable. Okay, so in that sense, we'll be applying what is called as construction. But colloquially, what we do is we interchange both the terms. Sometimes we say some interpretation, sometimes we say construction. Most of the times, we say interpretation. How we are going to interpret it. But only in this topic, we are going to differentiate these two headings, these two words. Interpretation is different and construction is different. So whenever we talk about construction, we'll talk about so interpretation and construction are both are similar words like as of now. Okay. So when we talk about construction, we need to apply some rules. So what rules then? So we're going to discuss all these things in this heading. So let me go directly to your chapter material. This is somewhat a lengthy topic, so kindly bear with me. And again, I have to go like word by word. Sometimes, sometimes I cannot skip it. Sometimes I have to go word by word, line by line. So you can also please join with me. Okay. Usually I'll make it as 2 sessions, but what I have planned this time is I'll make it as 3 sessions. I'll make you to study along with me. Okay. So what are the things we are going to discuss here in this topic is we'll discuss interpretation of statutes. Not only that, statutes is what as per the Act of Parliament and as per the other laws we have. But what about deeds and documents? The lease agreement, partnership deed. How are we going to understand those terms in that? Okay. In that sense, we are going to apply all these concepts here, deeds and documents also. So we'll try to introduce some relevant terms. We'll give the importance or we'll understand the importance, what do you mean by interpretation, and along with construction we'll come across. And we'll come across rules of interpretation which we follow, primary rule and also secondary rule. And we'll go for supportive aids. Probably seeing the title of the act, we'll understand what the act is about. Seeing the preamble of the act, we'll understand what the act is about. That's about the aids. Aids means supportive concepts. Okay, we have internal aids and we have external aids. So all these things will be applied for normal deeds and documents also, and how we are going to understand those things. Okay. As I said, it's like a big lengthy topic. Probably can you go for this heading? Just the headings alone. Can you go for rules of interpretation, primary rules? Yes, please. Probably you have to turn some 7 or 8 pages. Yeah, all this. How many you have? Rule of literal construction, rule of reasonable construction, rule of harmonious construction, Hayden's case, ruling Hayden case, rule of beneficial construction, rule of exceptional construction, and rule of ejusdem generis. Okay. Let me give a small example. I'm not going to go in detail. Okay, probably this is going to be the second session. I'm not going to go in detail. I'll just give a small example. Okay. Probably I'll go for this board work. Just go for the example column alone. What is this? No vehicles allowed in the park. Don't see these things at all. You just see the example column alone. No vehicles allowed in the park. What do you understand? Don't discuss with me. You just keep it as a secret. Okay? Because it's all about interpretation. I may understand in a different language, you may understand in a different language. Okay, எனக்கு இந்த டாபிக் தெரியும், நான் தான் டிசைன் பண்ணியிருக்கேன், அதனால எனக்கு தெரியும் எப்படி சொல்ல போறேன்ட்டு. So each and every person will be understanding in a different language. So probably you might have seen somewhere no parking board in the highways or in the roads. What does it mean? Okay, what does it mean? No parking is what should not park. Okay. The police also should not park, right? எனக்கு எப்பவுமே இந்த டவுட் வரும். No parking போல போலீஸ் நிப்பாட்டிட்டா. We'll usually get this doubt. Probably you might have also got the same doubt. Okay. Now come here. So you are going to understand in this sense. So don't think in the same manner. Don't disclose to me. Just understand what you understand from this line. Try to understand what you guessed from this line. No vehicles allowed in the park. Okay. So probably you can visualize. You are going for a park. Okay. Brian Park. Park. What do you mean by vehicles? See, try to break the words. Vehicles. Vehicles means what? Park. Park means what? Okay, it might be a small park or it might be like small, very small area where there'll be a walking area around. That circumference or that perimeter will be covered by a walk area. We may think like that of a park. Vehicles. What type of vehicles? பார்க்ல என்ன ஜீப் கார் அலோவ் பண்ணுவாங்க எந்த மாதிரி vehicles? Please try to visualize in that sense. Okay. Second, okay, we have done it. Okay. Second, any person who draws a weapon in the public place shall be fined. What do you understand? Okay. What do you understand? Just try to visualize. So you are walking by a roadside, and you see that there is an artist drawing some drawings. Okay. So it's any person who draws a weapon in the public place. Third, somewhat maybe connected to first one. No vehicles are allowed to park. Okay. Actually, this park is different and this park is different. Okay. This market area. No vehicles are allowed to park in a market area. And also you find a line that vehicles carrying essential supplies may enter the market. தக்காளி வெங்காயம் எல்லாம் எப்படி கொண்டு போவாங்க? கையில தூக்கிட்டு போவாங்க. அது கடையில போய் நிப்பாட்டுறாங்கல்ல. Okay. So probably visualized. Probably all these things I'm not going to discuss today. All these things I'm going to discuss tomorrow only. Okay. Tomorrow this means next session. Okay. Probably I'll share the screenshot. Okay. I have not finished completely. I'll share the screenshot. We'll have a look. Then we'll discuss it. Okay. Then fourth one. We have some laws related to labor protection, women and child welfare. Any one example? You don't disclose. Any one example? Probably you are doing with income tax salaries, right? Probably you might have gone through some act over there. Again, don't disclose, just keep it in your mind. So, labor protection, women and child welfare laws we might be having. It is okay. Shall I go for the next one? Fifth one. Women workers shall be entitled to maternity benefits. So, usually, if in any act they say workers shall be entitled to maternity benefits, what do you understand? Women workers Indian law. Singapore law, men workers are given maternity benefit leave on behalf of their wives to take care of the wives. Is there in Singapore law? நம்ம law இல்ல. நம்ம law எல்லாம் கொடுத்தா அவ்வளவுதான். வரவே மாட்டாங்க ஊருக்கு. Okay. Women workers shall be entitled to maternity benefits. Shall I go to the next one? No vehicles allowed in the park. The first case. First, second, and third, and sixth are almost similar. I just took the example in such a way that you had to understand and you had to get confused and you had to clarify. Okay. No vehicles allowed in the park. Except it's understood, right? Emergency vehicle. It's not at over. I have not given the complete details. If you want to make a note of it, yes, you can please make a note of it. And you can just chew the concept. Only this is the page you need. Yes, please. Actually, there are seven. Sorry, I missed the last one. Anyway, I'll discuss that in the next class. No issues. So all these seven things we'll be discussing in the next class. So probably I'm planning to cover only these two headings for today. Okay. So as small introduction, as a chartered accountant, we have to read the various laws and statutes. That's what we are trying to do here now. Okay, so let me not go this in detail. Let me go directly for this one. The study relates to not only interpretation of statutes but also deeds and documents. There's a lot of difference, but applicability of the principle is the same. Why? When we talk about statutes, we are talking about particular act or some rules or regulations or something. But when we talk about deeds or documents, we are particularly talking about how the document or how the deed is entered between two parties. For example, X and Y, they want to start a partnership business. It's a form of business. When you go for starting a business, it's a partnership form of business. You need to follow which act? Indian Partnership Act. So first thing, if you talk about interpretation of statutes, you need to understand what the Indian Partnership Act talks about. First thing. But X and Y are now partners, which means what they have a partnership agreement. Which is see, deed is another one term we use it for agreement. So sometimes we say deed, sometimes we say agreement. Okay, it's not the same, but there is a difference. But usually we interchange the terms. So when you say deed or when you say document, we are talking about the applicability of the act. Our intention here is not to talk about the applicability of the act. Please understand. Our intention is to talk about how the rules which are applied in statutes are applied over here. Okay. So when we talk about deeds or documents, how are you going to understand this one? How are you going to understand the statute is different. The statute said any two persons. But what about the deed and document say? Not any two persons. We are talking about X and Y. Who are X? Who are Y? And what about X doing? What about Y doing? Whether X is a working partner, whether Y is a sleeping partner, and so on. So, what are their terms and agreements? We'll go for the definition of statute. So, already we have done in detail, but anyway, we'll come across this. Means generally means laws and regulations of various kinds, irrespective of the source from which they emanate. We don't want to know whether they come from central, that's act of parliament or state legislation. That's all not necessary, but still, whatever it is, when it says that we have to follow it. See, why law is made? To protect everybody, right? Why law is made? To protect me, to protect you. When I see my angle, I have to think that it's protecting me and also protecting you. Okay, but when we feel that for one it is protecting, for others it's not protecting, means we have to see that it's overall how it's beneficial to the whole nation. Okay, problem. So here, irrespective means it can be of anything from wherever it comes from. If it's said it's applicable, it's applicable. Okay. When we use the word statute, see, actually, we are not defining here. Please try to understand definitions on over in the General Clauses Act. Here, we are just discussing and we are trying to understand and interpret it. When we say the word statute is now synonymous with what? Act of Parliament. Usually, Act of Parliament we take. So, broadly speaking, it's a written law. Please highlight. It's the written law that the legislation establishes directly. Legislation is the organ, right? What are the four organs we have? Executive organ, right? Legislative organ. Okay. Legislature established directly. Maxwell, here is the definition he's giving, is a bill of the legislation. In Indian language, statute means an enacted law that is enacted by the parliament or by the state legislation. So if you get the heading as statute, so how many points you can write it? This completely is talking about the definition. This complete para is talking about the definition. So in India, the constitution provides for passing in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, then the assent of the president, then it comes in the official. So all stories we know, right? I'm not going line by line. So when we say it is originated through legislation, it becomes a enacted law. Please try to link each and every point with General Clauses Act. In General Clauses Act, we have seen the heading enactment. Enactment பார்த்துருப்போம்ல அந்த enactment இதையும் connect பண்ணுங்க அப்ப enactment என்னது bringing to the public அப்ப enacted law is what you call as a statute. Okay, which means if it is not enacted means it's not a statute, which means it is a unwritten law. So, or statute against unenacted or unwritten law. Okay. So the constitution, yes, please try to highlight. Here, when we talk about the definition of statute under constitution, they are not using the term statute. Instead, what we use here? We use in colloquial meaning, we use laws. Okay. So probably if we talk about the law, not defining statute, if you define law, is defined as including ordinance, order, bylaw, rules, regulation, notification, and whatever the things related to. So in general, it's a written law as against unwritten law. This is often repeated question part. Statute signifies written law as against unwritten law. So you have to write all these lines. Can you please go through? Can you please go through? Online, please join with me. கொஞ்சம் என்னோட join பண்ணிட்டு பார்த்தே வாங்க. Each and every line gives a different meaning. Looks like as if everything is same, but each and every line will give a different meaning. Yes, please join. Now, you go for the second one. Sorry, not second one. First, no vehicles allowed in the park. Instead of this, no vehicles allowed in the park. You stand in front of a gate, in front of a residence. It's not your residence, somebody else's place. And you find that there is a board hanging at the gate, no parking in front of the gate. Okay, what do you do? ஓ! அப்படியா? முதல்ல போய் பார்ப்பீங்க. Okay, leave off this board hanging and all. You might have seen in some roads like private, it's not like private roads. They will make the accessibility private. Probably road dead ends இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். அவங்களே வந்து permission not allowed, else don't park. இந்த மாதிரிலாம் ஏதாவது போர்ட் போட்டுப்பாங்க. Especially like near supermarkets or something like that. Do you think it's allowed? Do you think that's allowed? Now you have read the definition of statute. Now you understand it this way. Do you think it's allowed? Okay. I'm not giving the answer. You just think yourself. That's what interpretation is. Probably next class we'll discuss. You go for document? Okay. Class அரைகுறையா முடிச்ச மாதிரியே ஒரு feel இருக்கு இன்னைக்கு. We'll go for document. I'll go line by line. Please join with me. Generally understood. What is that? We have done it in General Process Act. If no definition is defined in any act means we'll go and refer General Process Act. So any document, which may be what? A paper or any other material thing, probably that may be giving some information. Right? That will be giving a paper or other material thing that will be giving some information or a proof or evidence. Okay. You remember, as per your knowledge, when did you write alphabet A? தெரியல எங்க அம்மாட்ட தான் கேட்கணும். Probably you go and ask your mom today, at least by phone call, whether you have that A எழுதின பேப்பர் இருக்கான்னு கேளுங்க. வச்சிருப்பாங்க. நான் வச்சிருக்கேன் சஹா எழுதுனது. ஏன் மேம் அவ்வளவு பாசமா? இல்ல எவ்வளவு கேவலமா எழுதிய போறீங்க. Or probably I'll be sometimes motivating her. Sometimes she'll be telling, என் handwriting நல்லா இருக்கா? She'll be asking me. I'll be showing that paper. நீ எவ்வளவு பெருசா எவ்வளவு கேவலமா இருக்க, இப்ப எவ்வளவு அழகா எழுதுற பாரு. Because my handwriting will not be good. Sir's handwriting will be so very good. My handwriting will not be good. Okay, it will like காக்கா கிறுக்கல் மாதிரி தான் இருக்கும். கோழி கிறுக்கல் மாதிரி தான் இருக்கும். It will not look nice. Okay, if I give so much importance for giving a good handwriting, I'll do it. But if my intention is not about handwriting to deliver the concept and to understand me, I'll just scribble it and close it. So she'll be having this doubt whether my handwriting is good. Okay, so I'll be showing that big A paper. Okay, in that full A4 sheet, they'll be writing A, and that will not look like A. Only if you say that's A, that's a A. Okay, that's a document. See, it has to give some information. I give you a plain sheet. Tell me whether this is a document or not. Why you say it's a document or why you say it's not a document? Uh, this some therapy they give, right? For some brain underdeveloped kids and all, what they do is they give the therapy. They'll give a paper and they'll ask to scribble something on that. Okay. Seeing that scribbling, they'll understand. Or probably in some small age traumas, they'll be like probably they might have lost their parents. The fire accident, அதெல்லாம் பார்த்துருப்பாங்கன்னா ரொம்ப டென்ஷன் ட்ராமால போயிடுவாங்க. ட்ராமானா they'll not be in a normal state. So what the psychiatrists do is they'll give a paper and they'll ask to draw whatever you want. Okay, if I give you an activity now, take a paper and draw something else. What you like to have? What you will do? What you will do? ஒவ்வொருத்தரும் ஒவ்வொரு மாதிரி ட்ரா பண்ணுவோம்ல. I may have a different drawing. You may have a different drawing. Most of the people, normal people, what they'll do? Write something, draw something. Immediately, okay, you go to a stationery shop. You want to buy a pen. What you do? You immediately write your name. Okay. Yes, close friends or name or anything, other issue. Okay. See, seeing that paper, whether it's a plain paper or whether some information was written, seeing that paper, we will understand, we in the sense the psychiatrist will understand what is going in your mind. So that gives an information. Probably you need not write anything, you need not draw anything. That will give some information. Okay. So it is giving some proof or information or something. The law defines document in more technical form. Please highlight this line. Probably you may get it in quotes. The law defines document in a more technical form. If you go for Indian Evidence Act, following from Section 3 of the Act, it says it means any matter expressed or described upon any substance by means of letter, figures, or marks, or by more than one of those means intended to be used or which may be used for the purpose of recording that matter. We have discussed this in General Process Act. The same thing. Okay. So writing is a document, any words printed, photograph, or documents. Okay. So when you go for General Clauses Act, you'll find the same line, so I'm not repeating this, somewhat the same definition. As per the General Clauses Act, we follow Section 3, Clause 18. Okay. See, usually Section 2 is the definition section. But under General Clauses Act, Section 3 is the definition section. You remember Section 3, Section 4, Section 4E under General Clauses Act. Okay. So when we go for Indian Evidence Act, Section 3 defines what you mean by document. Okay. So what are the things you need to have? What are the things you need to have? Four elements. This is also often repeated. What are the four elements of a document? Shall see here, shall include any matter, first point. Okay, one element. That may be written or whatever it is. Written, expressed or described upon any substance. Okay, substance. Okay, means by letters, figures, or marks, or by more than one of those means. Okay, this means or this means or this means, it can be anything which is intended to be used or which may be used for the purpose of recording. These are the four elements. We have to describe this four element. So this one definition is broken as four elements. So these are the essential elements for you can say this is the document. Okay. So matter, this is the first element. Record, this is the second element. Substance, this is the third element. And means, this is the fourth element. What do you mean by matter? Any shows that the definition of document is comprehensive. It can be on anything. It can be on a stone. It can be on a photograph. It need not be written. Seeing that photograph, you see about a picture. So that's also creating an evidence. That's also a document. When you say record, it's a mutual or mechanic device on which it is done, how it is done. Writing, expression, description, or whatever it. Substance, mental or intellectual element. Okay, to find in a permanent form. Okay, and means by permanent form is acquired, can be by letters. How we do it? Okay, you find a photograph. It might be, or you might find a drawing. It can be of any form, some colored or whatever it is. So figures, marks, symbol which can be used to communicate between two persons. Let me take over. Next heading. Instrument means a formal legal document. Please highlight. What is a document? It can be anything. But when you say it's an instrument, it's a formal legal document. When you say a document, I sign or I scribble something in the paper. It's a document. We both are going to enter into an agreement and I sign and you sign. It's an instrument. Please try to understand. It's a formal legal document which might be creating or confirming a right or records a fact. Okay. I am borrowing 1 lakh from you. என்ன நல்லா ஞாபகம் வச்சுப்பீங்கல்ல? Okay, மறக்கவே மாட்டீங்க. I borrow 1 lakh from you. So I give a document signed saying that I'll return in 1 week. This is a document or instrument? This is an instrument, not a document. Actually, document first, then instrument. Why did I say this is instrument? You're getting a right on this because I'm saying that I'll read with it. Okay. It's a formal writing of any kind, such as an agreement or deed or charter or record drawn up and executed in a technical form. Because when we say document, we have to go in a technical form. It also means a formal legal document having legal effect. If it is not having a legal effect, then it's not a legal document. Then it's not an instrument. Okay. Either as creating a right or liability or as affording evidence, whatever it is. Right or liability or affording evidence. So if you go for Indian Stamp Act, as per Section 2, Clause 14, instrument includes every document by which any right, liability or purpose to create or created or transferred, extended, extinguished, or recorded, then this Indian Stamp Act will be applicable. So this will be the question. Okay, probably I'm buying a property from you. So you're transferring a property to me. Then what I have to do? I have to pay stamp duty. Okay, how the stamp duty will be paid? It can be paid online. Okay, or you can directly buy stamp papers, the green color paper, seal color. So you can buy stamp papers, which means what you're giving some money for the thing. Okay, it's as per the law. So either when you do this, either it's created or transferred or extended or extinguished or recorded. If you're doing anything related to your right or liability means you have to follow the stamp act. Okay. So that's about instrument. Let me go for deed. Let me finish off these three headings because usually you'll get these three headings. Document, instrument, deed. மூணுமே சேர்ந்து வரும் அதுக்காக மூணுமே பார்க்குறேன். So the legal glossary defines deed as an instrument in writing. Please understand. First we have seen document. Then instrument is nothing but a formal legal document. Now a deed, which is an instrument itself, okay, in writing or other legible representation or words on parchment or paper. So usually it will be in representative form. Okay, probably write and will convey all the rights and liabilities, permitting to effect some legal disposition. Simply stated, deeds are nothing but instruments, though all instruments may not be deeds. Please highlight. All instruments are not deeds. Deeds are usually instruments. Okay. However, in India, okay, ஒரு கொஸ்டின் உங்களுக்கு ரைஸ் ஆயிருக்கும். ஏன் ரெண்டுமே ஒண்ணு மாதிரி தான் இருக்கு. So India we treat both are same only. Don't get worried. Okay. So till here one heading is done. Yes, please. All these three put together we have to define it now. It's not actual definition, it's interpreting. Interpreting. Okay. Yes, please. Interpretation. Now only we are going for the complete heading. Interpretation of statutes. The interpretation is meant is nothing by the process. Sorry. Is the process by which the courts seek to ascertain the meaning of the legislation through the medium of the words. See how we understand what is given. Probably we see the act, we understand the words, and we check whether it's applicable for me or not. Okay. So the courts. So for whom this is applicable for courts, but we are going to apply the concept and we are going to check whether this is applicable for me and for my company or not. Then only we take the case to the court of law, in which it is expressed. Simply stated is the process by which the real meaning of the act, please highlight, need not be an act at all, incomplete, maybe a document also. And what is the intention of the legislation in enacting it? See, ஒரு ஆக்ட் இருக்குன்னா அந்த ஆக்ட் சும்மா கொடுக்கல, போர் அடிக்கலாம் உட்காந்து டிசைன்லாம் பண்ணலாம். ஒரு கமிட்டி ஃபார்ம் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க. அந்த கமிட்டி என்ன சும்மா உட்காந்துருக்காங்க, ஏதாவது சம்பளம் தரணும் அதுக்காக அப்படியெல்லாம் பண்ணலாங்க. There should be some reason. Okay, there should be some. That's why we go for the history of the act. What was the earlier act and all check. So we need to check why it's being designed. Okay, there should be some reason for designing. There should be a committee formed. Why the committee is formed and who are there in the committee? If this is something related to pharma, அப்படின்னு வச்சுக்கிட்டீங்கன்னா அந்த அதுல யார் இருப்பாங்க? Pharma related experts இருப்பாங்க. So accordingly it will be designed. So when we talk about interpretation, it's nothing but a process. Now you understand this line here. It's a process by which the real meaning of an act or a document and the intention of the legislation is in enacting it will be ascertained. Ascertained means what? Taken directly. You tell me whether a judge will understand science. கட்டாயமா சயின்ஸ் கிளாஸ் பிடிக்கலங்கிறதுக்காக தான் ஜட்ஜ் ஆயிருக்குது. Not tell me whether you understand the pharma related technical terms, definitely not understand. A judge may be a good passion, he may be having good passion in listening to music, but he is a singer, no? He need not be. So if there is a case related to singing, பேட்டன்ட்லாம் போடுறாங்கல்ல, என்னோட வாய்ஸ் என்னோட மியூசிக் அப்படின்ட்டு. So is that related to any singing or voice related or any science or pharma related? What the judges will do? They'll ascertain the meaning if it is legally applied, okay. But they need to have the technical meaning, right? What they'll do? They'll bring the experts. Okay, one such case happened. There was a singing done in a concert. எல்லாரும் களத்துக்கு அடிக்க ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. ஓகே, எல்லாரும் களத்துக்கு அடிக்க ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. என்னன்னா என்ன சிங்கிங் கான்சர்ட் இப்படி அரேஞ்ச் பண்றீங்க, கேவலமா இருக்கு. That was taken to case. Okay, that was taken to court of law. And the judge has to decide. See, he should not take this. Okay, இந்த சிங்கரோட ஃபேன் அதனால அப்படியெல்லாம் பார்க்க கூடாது இல்ல. ஸோ இவர் வந்து என்ன பண்றாங்கன்னா எக்ஸ்பர்ட்டை கூப்பிடுறாரு. The expert was brought, the recorded video was played, and that expert has to say whether it's a noise or singing. Please try to understand. நான் நல்லா தானே பாடுறேன்னு நினைச்சிட்டு இருக்கீங்க. நாங்க கேட்கணும்ல. Okay. Whether this is a noise or singing. What do you mean by the term noise and what do you mean by singing? Singing means I'm talking about all the tones included. Okay. ஒரு கச்சேரி பஜனை எல்லாம் பாடுறாங்கன்னா இட்ஸ் நாட் சோ வெரி சிம்பிள். விஷயத்துக்கெல்லாம் பாட முடியாது. யூ நோ ஹரியரன் சிங் ஹரியரன் சிங்கர் ஹரியரன். ஒரு சாங் வந்து ஒவ்வொரு ஸ்டேஜ்லயும் ஒவ்வொரு மாதிரி பாடுவாங்க. அவரோட இதுவே அதான், அவரோட ஹைலைட்டே அதான். ஒவ்வொரு ஸ்டேஜ்லயும் ஒவ்வொரு மாதிரி பாடுவாரு. பட் இட்ஸ் ஆல் அசெப்டட். நீங்க இந்த கர்நாடிக் வோக்கல் எல்லாம் போயிட்டு ஒரு மாதிரி பாடினீங்கன்னா எடுத்து வாங்கிடுவாங்க. Okay, அந்த ஸ்ருதி இல்ல, இந்த ஸ்ருதி இல்ல, எந்த ஸ்ருதின்னு கேட்பாங்க. Okay, so you have to check whether this is a noise or this is a song. So the experts will be brought and the expert will say this is all following those two, அந்த சொல்றோம், இந்த சொல்றோம், இந்த ஸ்ருதி, அந்த ஸ்ருதி எல்லாம் கரெக்டா மேட்ச் ஆகுதான்னு பார்த்துட்டு he will say whether it's a noise or singing. Accordingly, what the judgment will be given. So as thinking of expert statements, the judge will take all the expert statements what they have given, and after that he'll refer the law and he'll give the this is what is interpretations. So why it is important? So probably we need to consider the significance. Probably we are applying the law. We say this is a source of law means we have to apply the law. Somebody has enacted the law and he is not alive now. He is no more now. But what you have to think, if he is alive means what he can do. Our constitution was given by Dr. Ambedkar and his committee. Usually we say that who is the father of our constitution means we say Dr. Ambedkar. He is not alive. Doubt on this. ஓகே. எக்ஸாம்ல டவுட் வந்துச்சுன்னா, நீங்க என்கிட்ட கேட்கலாம். சம்டைம்ஸ் எக்ஸாம் ஆன்சர் பேப்பர் வந்து கொண்டு போயிட்டு, மேம் இது இப்படி பண்ணேன் மேம் அப்படின்னா, ஓகே ஐ கேன் ஹெல்ப். பட் எனக்கு டவுட் வந்துச்சுன்னா, ஓகே ப்ராப்ளம் வில் ரெஃபர். ஜட்ஜுக்கு டவுட் வந்துச்சுன்னா, he cannot go and refer. But he has to think himself as a lawmaker. இந்த லா நான் மேக் பண்ணா அந்த டைம்ல எப்படி பண்ணிருக்கோம்? Okay. He has to think himself as a lawmaker and he has to decide. நம்ம அதெல்லாம் யோசிக்க முடியாது. Even though you have the capacity, you cannot do it because law is not giving that freedom to us. Only the judges can do that. So that's why we say judges means what court. That's why we say the court has to seek to ascertain the meaning. Okay, probably as a CA in future you're going to apply some provisions. Especially you're going to work on statutory ordinance program. You're going to apply the provisions. You're going to apply all the tax provisions, all the accounting standard provisions, everything. Probably it might be new to IFRS at that time. Probably in another 4 or 5 years you have to learn IFRS. இப்போ என்ன இந்தியன் அக்கௌண்டிங் ஸ்டாண்டர்ட்ஸ் இருக்கா, ஐஏஎஸ் இருக்கா, குரூப் 2ல இருக்கா? ப்ராப்ளி ஆஃப்டர் 4 or 5 years you have to study IFRS. அதுக்குள்ள நீங்க சிஏ முடிச்சிட்டீங்க, IFRS படிச்சதே இல்லை, பட் யூ கோயிங் டு அப்ளை IFRS ஃபார் யுவர் கம்பெனி. வாட் யூ ஹேவ் டு டு? You have to understand what is talking about. So direct, say this concept, right? Direct, we have accounting standards, we have IFRS. We cannot directly go from AS to IFRS. We need to have a bridging. That bridging is what we call as the IAS, Indian Accounting Standards. So this Indian Accounting Standards will be a part of AS and will be a part of IFRS. Like we cannot directly jump over there because normally we are developing nation. We cannot directly jump over there. That's why we have this bridging accounting standards. That's what Indian accounting standards are. So in case if we find any difficulty in understanding Indian accounting standards, please you go and refer accounting standards. So now next we'll jump to IFRS. So as a profession, definitely you will apply this IFRS. I'm very sure. Probably you might not learn in your curriculum. As a CA student, you will not learn. But after reaching a CA, definitely you're going to apply IFRS. You need to understand. No, you cannot go and say to your organization. He is saying that I'm going to fix 5 lakhs per month. அதிகமா ஆசைப்படுவோம். 5 lakhs per month. Okay, and you're going to say that you don't know IFRS? You cannot say that, right? What you will do? படிச்சது கத்துப்போம். So probably where you take the reference? Indian Accounting Standard. Okay, probably if there is a case happening and you have not taken that correctly, the authority says in a different way, you're saying in a different way. Okay, immediately what the authority will do? It will file a case on. டாக்ஸ் வந்து 4 லட்ச ரூபாய் பே பண்ணோம், நீங்க 1 லட்ச ரூபாய் பே பண்ணி சும்மா விட்டுருவாங்களா? Even though it's 3,75,000, for that 25,000 they'll be asking you to pay the gap. Okay, so you have to pay it. If you're not saying you're not going to pay, you go to the case law for you. You're very strong with the provisions. நீங்க பண்ணது தப்பு இல்லைன்னு தெரிஞ்சதுன்னா நீங்க அத்தாரிட்டியை ஃபைல் பண்ணி நீங்க அத்தாரிட்டி மேல கேஸ் போடலாம். அதே மாதிரி நீங்க பண்ணது தப்புனா அத்தாரிட்டி உங்க மேல கேஸ் பண்ணணும். அதெல்லாமே நடக்கதானே போகுது. அப்போ எவ்வளவு ஸ்ட்ராங்கா இருக்க போகுது பொசிஷன்ஸ்ல. Then you have to interpret it. That's what you're talking about, okay? So it's all completely interpretation. See, when you understand this is the source of law, means you have to understand how far that importance also. So it is an Inherent nature of legislation. So the process of statute making, please, I want to highlight this line. The process of statute making and the process of interpretation of statutes take place separately. It's not happening together, right? I only made the law, I'm going to apply the law. No, not at all. Somebody made the law, I'm applying, not for me, for my company. As a CA, I'm talking about. Okay, not for me, but for my company. So we are going to talk about two different agencies. One is the legislative working body, one is the executive body, and one another will be having the interpretation. Well, judicial body. They are going to decide on the cases, right? So interpretation serves as a bridge of understanding between the. So how do you classify this? We have two types of classification. One is legal and one is doctrinal. Legal is directly you follow the law. Doctrinal is we try to understand the law. Okay. So one is under legal we have authentic and usual. Under doctrinal we have grammatic meaning and logical meaning. Sometimes we have to think logically, right? When we say workers with respect to maternity benefit, yes, we understand that very clearly. It's nothing but we are talking about women workers because we are in India. We are not in Singapore. So we are understanding in the sense of Indian laws. Okay. So authentic, let me go for these lines. When rule of interpretation is derived from the legislator himself, which means as per the law exactly, which means authentic. யாராவது கொஸ்டின் கேட்டாங்கன்னா நான் சொல்லப்பா ஆக்ட்ல இருக்கு பாருங்க. That's what is authentic, which means legislator himself has given that. Okay. What is usual? When rule of interpretation is derived from some other source, like custom law or case law, we have to apply them. Okay. Probably you might have visited some temples. Okay. Probably when you go for visiting a temple, Aditya Birla Group, we have Birla Planetarium, we have Birla Temple, we have Birla College, Birla Engineering College, also famous. So this Birla family, they built a temple in Delhi. Okay, I think that was the year 1945, Nanaikara. Okay, 1945, I remember. I'm not sure with the data. I remember it's 1945 or 1948. Either the 2 years only it should be. பிர்லா டெம்பிள் கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ட் பண்ணிட்டு யாரை கூப்பிடுறாங்கன்னா காந்திஜியை கூப்பிடுறாங்க inauguration. Mahatma Gandhi was invited for inaugurating the temple. So he comes, okay, he comes for inauguration. He says that this temple should be open for everybody. No casteism. Anybody can come. பிச்சைக்காரனும் வரலாம் ராயலா இருக்கிறவங்க வரலாம் யார் வேணா வரலாம் அந்த மாதிரி நீங்க ரெடி பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு he gave this as a condition and he came. And everybody can visit the temple. Not only this temple, almost all the temples everybody can visit. But probably the main Agraharam சொல்லுவாங்க அதுல உள்ள போகும்போது you might have seen a board, a placard, standard placard. என்ன இருக்கும்? Only Hindus alone. See, our Indian constitutional right says anybody can enter in the public place, even a temple, public pond, right to use the public pond. Probably can go for a public temple. But when you go for religious, see, that's sort of custom law or religion-based law. Okay, when we say about that, we have to follow, we are giving respect actually. See, when we talk about India, we are having different cultures and different religions. We have to follow everything and we have to give respect everybody. Okay. And likewise, custom also. Over custom, over madri. Then, when you go for doctrinal side, doctrinal means we'll say application. See, we have done in companies that doctrine of lifting of corporate bill. It's like application process based. So we have to check the grammatical meaning and we have to check we have to say logically. Okay. So then the court applies only the ordinary rules of speech, which means what? As per the grammar. Okay. What's literally said, we use it. Okay. When you say logical side, it will go beyond the words and try to discover what's the intention in the statute. Some other. There should be some intention, right? So here is this person, Zolowitz. He gave his book called as Lectures on Jurisprudence. Okay. He says that what he says, it's said to be either legal or doctrinal. It is legal when there is an actual rule of law which binds the judge, which means that the judge cannot say it's no. If it is there in the act, it's an authenticated one, the judge also cannot say no. Even the judge is a kingmaker, lawmaker, he does not have the right, he is not given the authority to deviate from the real rules. To place a certain interpretation. It's a doctrine and means its purpose is to discover the real and true meaning of the statute. That's what we are going to make as construction in future. Legal interpretation is subdivided into authentic and usual. Authentic rule of interpretation is derived from the legislator itself. It is usual when it comes from some other source like custom or case law. Thus, when justician is a person ordered that all the difficulties arising, okay, it's not normal wordings, should be referred to him for decision. He was providing for authentic interpretation. So, normal portion code. When you go for doctrinal, may be divided into two categories, grammatical and logical. It is grammatical when the court applies only the ordinary rules of speech, which means what? Directly what the grammar is saying, it will be applied. And on the other hand, when the court go beyond the words, it will be said as a logical interpretation. The year of the word is Solovich. Now we'll go for another person's verdicts, Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald. He was interpreting in two kinds. One is literal and one is functional. Literal means words, direct words, how it is being designed. Okay. And functional means how you're going to apply. So the duty of the court is to ascertain the intention of the legislature and seek for that intent in every legitimate way. As I was saying, I may not having some receipts in my hand, but still the act says we can register, even though it's not applicable. Okay, even though I don't have all the documents as an enclosures on addiction, it's applicable. It doesn't mean you're deviating from law. See, when the law is designed, it should be made beneficial to all. Okay, so, but first of all, in the words and language employed, we have to see that's about the duty of the court. So, this is talking about literal. When you go for functional side, is that which departs from the letter of the law, which means what you're going beyond the words of the law, seeks elsewhere for some other and more satisfactory evidence of the true intention. Who signed my marriage registration? My mom and Sir's mom. Which means what? Even though I don't have the receipt in my hand, the witness gives a clear me. Okay, so other things and all. So it's necessary to determine the relative claims of the letters and spirit of the enacted law. So was it necessary that they have to register act? So it happens. Okay. So in all ordinary cases, the courts must be content to accept the letter of the law as the exclusive and conclusive evidence. Please highlight this line now. So how they accept the letter of the law, exclusive and conclusive evidence. You know, understand, right? What do you mean by conclusive evidence? It is given means no other go. There is no other deviation. It's presumed. Okay. So it's essential to determine with accuracy with substance between the two moments. Interpretation is over. We have to go for construction. Yes. Construction. What do you mean by construct? What do you mean by construct? Normal colloquial meaning. What do you mean by construct? To build something. Okay. Normal colloquial meaning. Building construction. What do you mean? ஏதோ ஒண்ணு கட்டுறது. Okay. Which means we are doing something new. See, so far we are discussing about interpretation, which means we are going to apply the words of the law. But when we say construction, sometimes directly applying will not be helpful. We need to understand why this act is there and why I need to apply. Whether this act will be covered for me or not. Okay. So, as applied to a written statute or document needs to determine from its known elements true meaning or the intention of the framers. Who are the framers? Lawmakers. Okay. What their intention was and what is the true meaning to form this act. See, we know two acts, Indian Contract Act and another one, Indian Partnership Act. Indian Partnership Act is repealed from Indian Contract Act. Okay. See, it's repealed from Indian அதிலே இருந்துட்டு போட்டுமே தனியா ஆக்டா படிக்கணுமா அப்படி இல்லாம we have a separate act for Indian Partnership Act means there is something we need, which means you need to check why it's not over there and why it's over here. So Indian Contract Act may be suitable for entering into what are all the different types of contracts applicable, but when it happens it's a contract between two persons or any persons like doing business. So it should be more keen on the agreements and clauses. So we need to have Indian Partnership Act. So it's completely detailing all about the business related contents and all. Okay. So when we go for construction, we need to go for the true meaning. That's what we're going to apply in the primary rules of interpretation. Okay. So construction involves drawing conclusions beyond the actual expressions used in the concept. No vehicles allowed in the park, I think, right? I think that's the line, right? What's the first line we were discussing? No vehicles allowed in the park. This is given in the act, which means if you understand, no vehicles allowed in the park. Okay, if you say this line and you place a security over there, ஒரு வண்டி போனாலும் என்ன சொல்றாரு? தடுத்து நிறுத்துறாரு. Okay. What he says, this is the order given to me. What's the order given? Order given is that in the act. No vehicles allowed in the park is the order given to me. Okay. Now the emergency vehicle goes. ஒரு ஹார்ட் அட்டாக்ல அங்க ஓடி ஒரு வழி ஆயிடுச்சு. ஹார்ட் அட்டாக்ல துடிச்சிட்டு இருக்காரு. இவங்க வந்து இல்ல எனக்கு ஆர்டர் சொல்லிருக்காங்க. No vehicles allowed. See, no vehicles allowed in the park is the general meaning. What's the intention? Why it's not allowed in the park? Probably there may be so many kids playing inside the park. There may be so many persons doing exercises and so many things may be happening inside the park and we should not disturb them. And park is one area where you entertain yourself, not allowed for other. Some may be learning the driving and all. It's not allowed over there. But what about emergency vehicle? You have to follow traffic signal. But what about that's applicable for ambulance? No. Is it right? So that's what a construction is. Construction means you're going to draw conclusion. This means what you're going to say. This is the act talking about. If you're going to draw conclusion, means you should not see the actual expression. You have to go beyond that, beyond the actual expressions used in the past. This is done. How it is done by referring to the other parts of the enactment. Beautiful line part. இந்த ஒரு செக்ஷன் என்ன சொல்லியிருந்தாங்கன்னு சொல்லக்கூடாது நீ. இந்த ஃபுல் ஆக்ட்ல என்ன சொல்றாங்க இது மிச்ச ஆக்ட் மிச்ச ஆக்ட மிச்ச ஆக்ட்ல இருக்க ப்ரொவிஷன்ஸோட எப்படி மிக்ஸ் பண்ணிப்பாங்க. So this is done by referring the other parts of the enactment and the context in which the law was made. So when you construe a statute, you are attempting to ascertain the intention of the legislation. Okay. So actually, if you go through, we have to take this as vocabularies. So when you ask, when the question is define interpretation, define construction, we have to write all the lines. It's a written statute, apply to written statute from here, and construction, second line, third line, this four line has to be there. Okay, so break it as four different lines. Then it will be easy. Don't take it as a full paragraph. Now we need to understand what is the difference between interpretation and construction. Already I have given the details with respect to both. Let me join with you. Okay. So the difference between interpretation and construction and this one, while more often the two terms are used interchangeably to denote a process adopted by the courts to ascertain the meaning of the legislation from the words which it is expressed, these two have different connotations. Probably you may expect this line from here to here as course line. Okay. What is interpretation? It's the art of ascertaining the meaning of the words and the true sense in which the author intended that they should be understood. Okay, break it. It is a drawing of conclusion from a statute that lie beyond the direct expression. Okay, direct expression of the words used there. Just break it. Why we need to use that? Because the court, the judicial organ, is going to apply. So it's the duty of the courts to give effect to the meaning when the meaning can be equitably gathered from the words used. Yes, beautiful line. When you learn a phrase, it will be giving a different meaning. When you take a word, it will be giving a different meaning. Okay. Word பார்க்கணுமா phrase பார்க்கணுமா? வேர்டா பார்க்கக்கூடாது, phrase பார்க்கணும். ஒரு 4-5 வேர்ட் செய்யற போது ஒரு phrase. ஒரு சென்டென்ஸா பார்க்கும்போது it will give different meaning. சென்டென்ஸா பார்க்கணுமா ஆக்டா பார்க்கணும். ஆக்டா பார்க்கணும். நீங்க தனித்தனி வேர்டா பார்த்தீங்கன்னா it will be giving different meaning, but all together if you see it will be giving a sentence. It will give a actually you should not say the sentence. You should say the phrase. You know why? It's not called a sentence and it's called a phrase. What's the difference between sentence and phrase? Or sentence and statement? Phrase means colloquial term. What we say is a combination of words. Combination of words. What's the difference between sentence and statement? Statement is a report. The sun rises in the west. இது தப்பா போட்டானா இதை தப்பா போட்டானா? The sun sets in the west னு போடணுமா இல்ல the sun rises in the east னு போடணுமா? எப்படி வேணா போடலாம். ஓகே, இப்படியே போட்டுக்கலாம். The sun rises in the east. ரைட்டா இல்லையா? For me, it's right. For you? For you? For you? Right. Statement. Okay. You say, my age is how much? some 22 or something I have. Okay. Today is 22. After 5 years? After 10 years? After 60 years? It's a sentence. It may not be true always for everybody. Statement means it will be true for everybody. I say it's right. You say it's right. Okay. But when you say a sentence, it's a combination of usually if you go for the English meaning of sentence, there is no ஒரு சப்ஜெக்ட் இருக்கணும் வேர்ப் இருக்கணும் ஒரு ஆர்டிகல் இருக்கணும் ஒரு ஃபுல் ஸ்டாப் இருக்கணும் that's a sentence but usual meaning is sentence means it may not be true for everybody okay நான் என்னோட ஏஜ் டுவெண்ட்டின்னு சொன்னா நீங்க நம்ப போறீங்க okay இல்ல இல்ல அப்புறம் என்ன okay this statement is not that way the sun rises in the east is for everybody it's true even for the court it's true okay there is one nation where there is no sun rising there is no sun setting ஓகே 6 மந்த்ஸ்க்கு இருட்டே இருக்காது 6 மந்த்ஸ்க்கு வெளிச்சமே இருக்காது அவங்க ஊர்ல போயிட்டு சன் ரைசஸ் இந்த ஈஸ்ட் எங்களுக்கு எப்பவுமே சன் ரைசஸ் எங்க ரைஸ் ஆகுது பட் இட்ஸ் அ யூனிவர்சல் லைட் வி சே இட்ஸ் ட்ரூ ஓகே ஓகே சோ let me come again here so equitably gathered why did they say equitably gathered நான் என்ன முடிக்கல gathered means what we should not see as a word we should see as a complete sentence or complete phrase why do we say equitably gathered don't see it grammatically go beyond the words. Is it okay? So, verbs of legal import occurring in a statute which occur a definite and precise sense must be understood in that sense. Please highlight. If you have a very particular sense, okay, it says fine will be imposed. There is a board you can find. Restricted entry, else fine will be imposed. அதுல என்ன அர்த்தம் இருக்கு? You should not go inside, which means you can take the permission and go inside. If you don't take the permission and go, fine will be yes, fine will be imposed. அது alternate meaning இல்ல word இல்ல. Okay. So thus the code adheres to the plain meaning of the language used by the legislature. Please highlight this is a very, very important paragraph. Thus the code adheres to the plain meaning of the language used by the legislature. Plain meaning without any deviation means called interpretation of the words. There is a one way route இருக்கு. நீங்க one way தாண்டி போறீங்க opposite directionல போறீங்க which means what you should not go. போலீஸ்கார பிடிச்சிட்டாரு நீங்க தனியா கவனிச்சுப்போம் அது வேற விஷயம் there is a penalty levy you have to pay அவ்வளவுதான் without helmet you travel police பிடிச்சிட்டாரு you have to pay no go which means what you are directly applying the plain meaning but where the meaning is not plain the court has to decide what they have to do what this wording means to cover the situation here the court will be resorting to construction so they want to go beyond the meaning means they go for resorting to construction so conclusion drawn by means of construction are within the spirit, though not necessarily within the letter of law. Please highlight. We may get this as quotes. Conclusions drawn by means of construction are within the spirit, no, not within the letter of law. Law the wordings இருக்காது, but beyond the intention, beyond the words intentional. That's what we call here as construction. But colloquially, what we do is speak synonymously, interchange, and give the equal. So constructionங்கிற வேர்டை யூஸ் பண்ணோம்னா நம்ம என்ன பண்ணிப்போம் interpretation யூஸ் பண்ணுவோம் that's why we have the second heading why we need interpretation or construction இது வரைக்கும் ஓகே so why do we need interpretation or construction is that necessary that's the question okay so while every care is taken to ensure that laws framed for passing by the legislation are free from ambiguity and absurdity law makers வந்து frame பண்ணும்போது மேக்ஸிமம் அவங்க ட்ரை பண்றாங்க கன்ஃபியூஷன் see if you go for Indian penal code when that is made it's very long but almost century ago if you talk about IT Act I'm not talking about income tax information technology recently we have that so we can understand the applicability so probably we are in that generation itself if you talk about Indian Contract Act probably that is having a wider applicability that's why you can easily understand so what happens is when the lawmakers are framing the words, each and every words are framed. Probably they are trying to make it free from ambiguous and absurdity. What do you mean by ambiguity and absurdity? Ambiguity means like too much of the words, creating confusions, or absurdity means தேவையில்லாம words கொண்டு வரது. That's a word of absurdity. It is scarcely possible to express them in such terms shall be free from all ambiguity. It's not very easy. Okay, it's not very easy. Such a degree of precision is perhaps unattainable. We cannot say each and every word is so very important. Like we cannot say in that way. So the legislator cannot foresee all contingencies at the time of passing of the law. So this is further compounded by the want of views sufficiently comprehensive so as the intention of the legislation. So that's why we are studying this content. It's quite possible that the words of the statute are vague, okay, ambiguous, or reasonably capable of more than one meaning. Please highlight. Sometimes one word may not be giving one meaning. It might be giving more than one meaning. ஒரு வேர்டே ஒரு மீனிங்க்கு மேல தருதுன்னா when you go for the phrase of words, it will be giving so many different meanings. What law says is the beauty of the law, all are right. Okay, which you should not say this is valid, this is void. You should not say that way, all are right. That's one thing. We'll discuss that in the next class. So it is then that a need of interpretation of construction arises. So here, in order to just and uniform the decisions, we have to go for rules of interpretation. So no better explanation can be given for the need for interpretation than that provided by this person. So probably I request you to highlight his name also, Denning. So far we have done with Zulus, right? Zulus, Rizal, Patrupov, வேற என்னது question ஒன்னு பார்த்தோம், question words, and Denning. See, it's given in quotes. Actually, when you write a person's name, you have to give in quotes only. So I request that you give it, but don't write it in quotes. Okay, if you put it in quotes, தான் நீங்க ஒரு alphabet கூட வாங்க முடியாது. ஏன்னா அது அவரோட wordings. நீங்க மாத்தவும் கூடாது. Okay, அதனால quotesல போடாதீங்க, quotesல போடாம இருங்க. Let me go word by word. It's not within human powers. So you have to have like supernatural powers. அந்த மாதிரி இல்ல. நம்மளோட கண்ட்ரோல் இல்லாம ஒரு சில விஷயங்கள் நடக்கும். To see all the aspects, like all the dimensions, manifold sets of facts which may arise, and that even if it's not possible to provide them in terms of free from all ambiguity. The English language is not an instrument of mathematical precision. Please highlight this line. Don't see this as English language. நம்ம லால வந்து நிறைய தப்பு பண்றது ரீசனே வந்து நம்ம இங்கிலீஷா பார்க்கலாம், இங்கிலீஷா பார்க்காதீங்க. மேத்தமெட்டிக்கல் ப்ரிசிஷன்ங்கிறது டெக்னிக்கலா என்ன இருக்கு, என்ன மீனிங்கோட பார்த்தாங்க அந்த ஆங்கிள் பார்க்கலாம். So our literature must be much would be much the poorer if it were. So you don't take it as a direct meaning. We say grammatical meaning, but don't take it as grammatical meaning. No vehicles are allowed in the park means don't take it as grammatical meaning. Okay, we have to go for the exception case also, which means emergency vehicles are allowed. Why not? Wheelchairs are allowed. Okay, why not? இருக்கலாம்ல. ஹாஸ்பிட்டலுக்குள்ள வந்து vehicles allowed இல்ல, wheelchair தான் எப்படி ஹாஸ்பிட்டலுக்குள்ள முடியும்? Allowed. Okay, so this is where the draftsmen of our acts of parliament have been unfairly criticized. That's what they say. That's a fact. Okay, இப்போ கூட நீங்க நினைக்கிறீங்க எந்த இந்த மாதிரிலாம் law இருக்கும், நான் கூட படிக்கும் போது நினைச்சிருக்கேன். இப்போ கூட I feel இவ்வளவு டஃபா இருக்கணுமா? ஓகே, எவ்வளவு டஃப் உங்களுக்கு எவ்வளவு தூரம் புரியுதுன்னு தெரியாம எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்க பாருங்க, அவ்வளவு டஃப் அவ்வளவு டஃபா இருக்கணுமா? பட் ஓகே, அவ்வளவு விஷயங்கள் இருக்கு. A judge, now we go for the point of justice. A judge believing himself to be fettered by the supposed rule. What do you mean by fettered by the supposed rule? If he is given the power, that he must look into the language and nothing else. Please highlight. That's the very first law. That's the very first rule it will be. See, under the rules, we are going to discuss 7 rules. The first rule is rule of primary thing, which is rule of literal construction. See the words. What's the word? Please apply it. Okay. Language and nothing else. Elements that the draftmen have not provided for this, that, for that. See, ஒரு வேர்ட்ஸ் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க, அந்த வேர்ட்ஸ் மட்டும் இருக்குன்னா ஏன் எக்ஸ்ட்ரா கொடுத்துருக்கலாம், பிரிண்டிங் காஸ்ட் ஆக போகுது இல்ல, அது ஏன் கொடுக்கல? Okay, so that should be added. I need to have one act for all the parks. It is a small park. How can I have a wheelchairs inside? Please try to understand. So generally what I can say, no vehicles are allowed in the park. Okay, it's understood. If it's a big park where you can allow cycling inside, yes, please allow it. Okay. If there is a big park, if you allow cycling inside, all the persons related to cycling they'll come. Even a small kid with cycling will come. Okay, if it falls down, it will create a chaos. So why you need to do that? Avoid that. So no vehicles are allowed in the park. It's understood. And the difference is, please apply all the understanding meaning. I understand in the differences, you understand in the differences, please apply all those meanings. And it has to be applicable and it has to give benefits for all. Okay, so that have been guilty for some other ambiguity. It would certainly save the judges trouble if acts of parliament were drafted with divine prescience and perfect clarity. Obviously, எல்லாமே கட்டாத problem இல்லல்ல. In the absence of it, அதுதானே இல்லை. Okay, in the absence of it, when a defect appears, judge வந்து என்ன பண்றது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு கையை மடிக்கிட்டு இருக்க முடியுமா? He cannot hold his hands and blame the draftsman. படுபாவி இப்படி வச்சுட்டு போயிட்டாங்க ஆக்டர் அப்படின்னு சொல்ல முடியாது. What he has to do, he must set to work on the constructive task of finding the intention of the parliament. Please highlight. அப்ப என்ன பண்ணுவோம், இவர் உட்கார்ந்து டிசைட் பண்ணி இது ஏன் இந்த மாதிரி இருக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டு செக் பண்ணி சொல்லணும். Probably he might be making so many referrals, but he is the sole person over there. See, sometimes you might have heard of this bench codes, 3 bench code, 5 bench code. There is not one judge who is giving the judgment. When you say court, is not one judge. It might be 2 judges, 3 judges, 5 judges, depending on the severity of the case. ஏன்னா அங்க ஒரு ஜட்ஜோட இன்டர்பிரிட்டேஷன் பத்தாது. ஏன்னா லா வந்து டைரக்டா இருக்காது. மோஸ்ட் ஆஃப் த கேசஸ் வந்து எப்படின்னா லா எல்லா ஆங்கிலையும் இருக்கும். அப்ப நீங்க டைரக்டா எடுக்க முடியாது. ஓகே, அந்த டைம்ல வந்து என்ன ஆகும்னா there will be bench courts where all the judges will be discussing on they will be interpreting. Severity cases and majority cases வந்து ரொம்ப like sensitive issues create பண்ணதான் மாதிரி. Okay, now let me read it. He must set to work on the constructive task of finding the intention of the parliament. He should not think as per the intention of the case, of the correct case of fact. He must think as if what the parliament is discussing on this. இது ஆக்டா வரும்போது என்ன டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க, லோக்சபால பாஸ் பண்ணிருக்காங்க, ராஜ்யசபால பாஸ் பண்ணிருக்காங்க, ஏன் பாஸ் பண்ணாங்க? See, at first instance, Lok Sabha will not be saying okay. They will be giving suggestions. அதுக்கு பிறகு டிராப்டிங் திரும்ப போவோம், திரும்ப லோக்சபா போவோம். ஷிட் நடந்திருக்கல. கம்பெனிஸ் ஆக்டே நம்ம பார்த்துருக்கோமே, எத்தனை வாட்டி கம்பெனி பேப்பர் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க டிராப்ட். இப்போ இவ்வளவு விஷயம் நடந்திருக்குன்னா சும்மா பண்ணிருக்காங்களா? எவ்வளவு பேர் ஒர்க் பண்ணிருக்காங்கல்ல. அப்ப இவர் ஒருத்தர் வந்து அவ்வளவு ஒர்க் பண்றாரு என்ன அர்த்தம்? He has to completely see their intentions, not his intention. Please understand. எனக்கு கேஸ் சீக்கிரமா முடிஞ்சா நல்லது தானே, அப்படி பார்க்க முடியாது. He has to see their intentions. Okay, and he must do this not only from the language of the statute, but also for a consideration of the social conditions which gave rise to it, and of the mischief. Mischief means what? Not something correctly understood, not misunderstanding. Like okay, the situation அந்த இடத்துல செட் ஆகல, for which has passed to remedy, and then he must supplement the return word so as to give force and life. Beautiful lines from last 4 lines. Probably you can highlight from here. Judge cannot simply, from here you can highlight. You just try to read this statements like sentence so many times, you repeat it and repeat it, you will get a different meaning to the intention of the legislation. Okay, so it has been rightly said that a statute is the will of the legislation. The fundamental rule of legislation is that it will be expounded according to the intent of those that it made. Okay, in the event of the words of the statute being precise and unambiguous, it is only just necessary to expound the words. Please highlight. What do you mean by expound those words? Means to understand the real meaning of the words, not the English meaning in the mathematical sense, which means in the technical sense, in the natural and ordinary sense. Thus far and no further. அது மேல யோசிக்காதீங்க. கிளியரா இல்லைன்னா மட்டும் தான் யோசிக்கணும். If it is clear, don't go for a second meaning. If it is very clear, directly go for the meaning. Okay, this is because these words distinctly indicate the intention of the legislation. The purpose of interpretation is what? To discern the intention which is conveyed either expressly or sometimes everything is not expressive. You have to go implied way of understanding also by the language. If the intention is expressive, then the task becomes one of verbal construction. What do you mean by expressing? Verbal enna irukum அந்த டைம்ல வைக்காது. But in the absence of any or else some intention has to be there now, probably by the statute or the question to which it gives rises now, and yet some intention has to be there now, it should be imputed. What do you mean by imputing? Giving it support. Okay, before continuing, let me go for some other pages later. See, we are going to understand all these rules. Okay, first law, first rule, which one? You have to go for the direct meaning, plain meaning. Okay. No vehicles allowed in the park. Okay. Go for reasonable construction, which means what? Why it is over there? There should be some meaning, right? What does mean? See, don't see as English. See in the other way. Harmonious construction, it gives more than one meaning, one interpretation. Which one is right? Both are right. உங்களுக்கு ஒரு மாதிரி புரியுது எனக்கு ஒரு மாதிரி புரியுதுன்னா ரெண்டுமே ஒண்ணு தப்பு ஒண்ணு கரெக்ட் இல்ல ரெண்டுமே ரைட் தான் ஏன்னா ரெண்டுக்கு மீனிங் வருதுல்ல அங்க so go give meaning for both. Okay. And in case this is what is called as mischief rule. In case you find that something is not resorted means there should be ஒரு act இருக்குன்னா ஒரு benefits கவர்ந்து இருக்கும். If something is not resorted now, we need to have some reason for that. So go for the history. Why not that act? Why this act? Two persons forming a business as partnership firm. Why not Indian Contract Act? Why not why Indian Partnership Act? So we need to check. Okay. Rule of beneficial construction. Whatever you do, it has to give benefits. Okay. Against இருக்கிறது rare situation வரும் வராமலாம் இருக்காது but to the whole benefits இருக்கு. No vehicles are allowed to park in the car except emergency vehicles. And rule of adjusted generals. If it is belonging to same gene, I'm selling vegetables, which means what? All vegetables. தனியா லிஸ்ட் போடணுமா? We have seen this வடிவேல் காமெடி இங்க நல்ல மீன்கள் விற்கப்படும் அந்த காமெடி மாதிரிதான் ஓகே என்ன மீன்கள் நல்ல மீன்கள் see adjusting generalities in the sense that belonging to same category of family அப்போ அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணிக்கோங்களா தனியார போடணுமா அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் okay these are all primary rules தான் you have to follow everything and you go for second apart from this you have these two I don't want to confuse you you have these two you'll follow this apart from this to understand this in a better sense can you just scroll almost to the end of the pages vandrum page number you have the aids means support see internal aids to interpretation to understand the act in a better way you go for the title of the act what is act about you go for the preamble you go for the heading for each and every chapter you have a heading chapter 2 incorporation of a company under companies act so if you have or if you want to know anything about the incorporation go and refer the chapter 2 you need not refer the full act directly go and refer chapter 2 okay marginal notes will be there on the left side margin they'll be giving some small notes and all okay definition sections so which definition you are going to referring to sometimes we under companies act we have officer and default there's a two different section so which section you are referring to illustrations will be there proviso remember provided that proviso also further provided explanation will be there and schedules will be there and read the statute as a whole these are the supporting aids to understand and act in a better way even though you're applying all the rules of interpretation of everything the 7 rules and other 2 secondary rules even though apply everything still you need to understand in a better way ஏன்னா கன்ஃபியூஷன் எப்பவுமே இருந்துட்டே தான் இருக்கும் எப்படி கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ட் பண்றதும் தெரியாது எப்படி இன்டர்பிரேட் பண்றதும் தெரியாது அப்போ வந்து என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா இது எல்லாமே okay now come back let me finish off those headings so I'm over here right I'm over here but in the absence of any intention being expressed by the statute on the question to which it gives rises and yet some intention has to be I'm over here of necessity imputed to the legislature regarding imputed na enadhu கை உடைஞ்சிருக்குல்ல imputed சொல்லுவோம் imputed harmனு சொல்லுவோம் which means what there is no support which means you have to give the support to understand in a better sense so you take the heading you take the preamble you give support okay so then the interpreter has to define or has to determine by the inference based on uh, certain legal principles in such a case the interpretation has to be one which is commensurated with the public benefit for the beneficial purpose for the whole as a society. Consequently, if a statute levies a penalty without expressly mentioning the receipt of the recipient of the penalty, then by implication it goes to the coffers of the state. யாரெல்லாம் தப்பு பண்ணிருக்காங்களோ அவங்கலாம் பெனால்டிக்கு லெவின்னு சொல்லிட்டாங்க அந்த பெனால்டி யாருக்கு லெவின்னு சொல்லல அப்ப யாருக்கெல்லாம் ப்ரொவிஷன் அப்ளிகபிள் ஆகுதோ தட் இஸ் யாரெல்லாம் அதை ஃபாலோ பண்ணணும் அப்ளிகபிள் ஆகுதோ அவங்கெல்லாம் அண்டர்ஸ்டுட் தானே தட்ஸ் வாட் காஃபர்ஸ் ஆஃப் தி ஸ்டேட் காஃபர்ஸ் தானே அது மாட்டினாண்டா அதான் கார்பஸ். ஓகே. Okay, so as we noted earlier, interpretation might be either grammatical or logical. Grammatical or literal interpretation is directly with the words using the statute and only that. Don't interpret it, only that. If it is not giving meaning, then you go for interpretation. So the logical interpretation, on the other hand, seeks to ascertain what the law means. So you have this one absoluta sentia exposure non indigent. If it gives absolute meaning, absolute sensia exposition, it giving exposition expose பண்ணுது. Non indigent ஏன் தேவையான deviate பண்றீங்க? Non தானது don't indigent deviate ஆகுது. Non deviate don't deviate. Okay. So you okay, this is based on the principle. இது எக்ஸாம்ல கேட்கலாம் direct. Absolute sensia. Okay. Clear words need no explanation. See, clear words, absolute. Clear words, no means no explanation. Okay. So it's all the same thing. I'm not repeating. Already we have done this one. So where the law is clear and unambiguous, the court shall construe it based on the strict grammatical meaning. So that's it. The court shall administer the law as it stands and shall not attempt an alternative interpretation based on logic that is ostensibly just and easy. So this I'll discuss in the next class. So probably we did with this 5 examples, right? There's 5 examples. I have tabulated all the laws for 6 only. I did not find time. Actually, we have to get 7. Probably I'll add the 7th one and I'll send it. There are so many case laws, but I want to take the case law which will be helpful for us. If you study all, see, it's not case law means we are not going for the judgment. How the judgment is given, application of the law we have to check. So in that cases, I have selected only 5 or 6 cases only. So one with respect to literal construction, I have done the meaning and focus. Okay, and the legal case law, small understanding. So likewise, I have done for all the 6 rules. 7th one I have to add. Uh, this one case, State of Madhya Pradesh versus Azad Bharat Finance Company. For the second is also it's applicable. For third, sixth is also applicable. ரெண்டுக்கும் ஒரே கேஸா நான் செலக்ட் பண்ணேன் எனக்கு ஈஸியா இருக்கும் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணிக்கிறதுக்கு. Okay, so I request you to go for this case laws in detail. Okay, I'll share this one. You need not take a note of it. I'll share in the group. And apart from that, you remember we have to fill this one. Then means after reading all these cases, this column, you fill that. நீங்க எத்தனை ஃபில் பண்ணி வச்சிருக்கீங்க நீங்க என்ன நினைச்சீங்கன்ட்டு அதோட சேர்த்து இதெல்லாம் ரீட் பண்ண பிறகு நீங்க இப்ப என்ன நினைச்சிருக்கீங்கன்னு ஃபில் பண்ணு. ப்ராப்ளி வேரியேஷன்ஸ் இருக்கலாம், வேரியேஷன்ஸ் இல்லாமலும் இருக்கலாம். பிகாஸ் ஐ டேக்கன் அ வெரி டைரக்ட் எக்ஸாம்பிள். ரொம்ப டஃபாலாம் எடுக்கலாம் டைரக்ட் எக்ஸாம்பிள். ஓகேப்பா, தட்ஸ் ஆல் ஃபார் டுடே. தேங்க்யூ, தேங்க்ஸ் ஃபார் ஜாயினிங்.